jump to the left. With your hands on your hips.
And that was a clip of Rocky Horror Picture Show. This is Movies the Podcast, and this is Brenda.
This is Rob.
This is Curtis.
And this is Jordan.
Today we're going to be talking about cult films, but what's everybody been up to first?
Well, I think one thing we all did recently was attend Q-Fest, the annual Gay and Lesbian Film Festival in Houston. Brenda and I went and saw 2 movies together.
Porn.
One was Porn. I always wanted to watch gay porn with James Franco, and I feel I have.
And Brenda.
And Brenda. And her sister.
So from the moment you met her, you're like, you know what? You and I should watch porn together.
She said that,
we
actually.
bonded.
Yeah, it was...
And then we had kebab afterwards. So.
And she gave me a pedo bear tie. It was a good time. But we saw Interior Leather Bar, which is James Franco's project envisioning the lost footage from 1980s cruising. And then we all saw, except for Curtis was not available that night, I know.
He was on a date.
Saw First Period, which is a comedy, which we all really enjoyed.
I loved that movie.
It was pretty amazing.
Tell me what it's about.
It is if you've seen Girls Will Be Girls, it's kind of Girls Will Be Girls meets Mean Girls meets, it's like John Hughes meets John Waters.
Yeah.
And so it's very campy, but it's a throwback to those high school drama comedy, romantic 80s movies.
And for such a broad comedy of a movie, I found it pretty relatable. I really liked...
I totally related to it.
I like the main girl. She's kind of off a little bit. Like she has so much pride in herself that she doesn't care what people think about her. And I loved her. And I love that the one girl had no friend, the coat rack.
Oh my God, she was hilarious. Well, the twist is that the 2 main characters, the 2 girls, are played by men. So, but it's not drag. It's more, it exists in a much more mainstream place. I would kind of compare it to Divine's character in Hairspray, where it's kind of a...
I don't want to make
it's
that
kind
not,
of just...
Not drag.
It's accepted. That's
you know what
a
I'm
woman.
talking about.
Yeah.
It's not drag. It's a man playing a woman.
Yeah.
And it's believable in a way.
And both the lead wrote the movie, and her co-star, they both just sold it. Like the movie asked a lot of physical comedy out of them, and oh my God. And the supporting cast was good too, but those 2 were...
Cassandra Peterson.
I say there's a couple of famous
who
people.
plays Elvira. Judy Tenuta, who I've always loved, had a great cameo as a psychic. And I would put it up there with like Bridesmaids or, Bachelorette or, some of these movies that have been coming out recently with the funny... I laughed more in this movie than I did during...
Bridesmaids, for me.
Bridesmaids. And This Is 40, which I watched the other day, which I loved, and I laughed through the whole thing. But I think I laughed more during First Period.
I'm sad I missed it. Well, I'm not sad I missed it. It's a good date, but...
Well, the director was there, and he said that they are shopping for a distributor.
Yeah.
And it's kind of making the festival circuit. So hopefully it'll be available for more people to see.
The biggest shocking thing about the news with that, when he came up and he says, we shot this in 10 days.
Oh, yeah. That
Good
one.
Lord, yeah.
I was like...
I think everybody's jaw dropped like, what?
I mean, you can tell that it's a cheaply made... It had a low budget. It had a low budget, but it was still... There was a lot of coverage, and the way it was shot.
There's a lot of costume changes, scene changes. It's a lot of locations.
There are only 10 students at the high school, though.
Yeah.
If you notice, it's the same 10 people walking on all the hallways. And at the high school party, it's the same 10 people that you just saw walking in the hallway. But the production value is actually really good.
Yeah.
I thought the music... There were some original songs by some of the cast.
And whoever did the music did a really good job of making it sound like popular songs, but they weren't.
Because you don't have to pay for the rights.
Yeah.
But it had a very... and the lead character had a very Molly Ringwald... For those of us who grew up watching Molly Ringwald and that earnest, pretty girl that isn't popular, but she kind of puts together her own fashion, that was really a throwback to...
Kind of like conventionally beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot less annoying than Molly Ringwald, I will say.
The only film I saw at QFest this year was, I saw a short called PDA, and then Rob and I saw, and Brenda saw, a documentary about Divine. Excuse me.
I was really sad that I had class and I didn't get to see
It was
the
a fantastic
Divine
documentary.
I've heard so many good
Packed.
things.
It was pretty
It,
packed.
and Rob had made a really good point when we saw it too, or I don't know if this was your point or I'm stealing it, but there was such, it felt like audience participation. It felt like everybody was watching it together and everybody was in it. We all were
It
interested.
was a community experience watching that
Yeah.
movie, and it's just, you forget that sometimes going to watch a movie should be like
A
you're
shared
there to get a
experience.
shared experience. It is, and it was fantastic. Everybody laughed and clapped, and there was just the reaction to the film was fantastic. Actually, we had that again. I wish there were more during first period, but there was a lot of you had those same reactions with other people.
It was cool, and that's I like that about the film festival, which was these people who go to these things are people who love movies and people that are interested in the community, and so there's a level of engagement that you don't find in mainstream movie theaters. With the people.
My sister and I made it to I Am Divine like by the skin of our teeth. We actually got there early, but being naive, didn't think it was going to be sold out. But we happened to make it, and we probably could have caught it at another time, but with this audience, it kind of like it made it such an experience.
Oh my God, there was one guy though, if we ever find out who he was, sitting behind us, he commented on everything. Anytime something funny would happen, it'd be like, haha, and he'd be like, that was funny!
Aww, that sounds awesome.
No, Jordan was there?
I wanted to watch the erotic shorts with him. That would have been, that's a penis!
That's an ejaculate! Yeah. No, that's how he was.
Oh, no, not for nothing, but didn't I say a lot of those shorts would have been awesome in 3D?
Oh my God, they were
Brenda.
before Interior Leather Bar. There were some erotic shorts, which were it was very beautifully done
They
and
were
very
actually
tasteful
nicely done.
for a giant close up, not even a medium shot, but close up of a lubed penis being vigorously masturbated.
Mother.
It was the most beautiful thing. I don't know. It was
like intercut with scenes of the ocean and
Yeah.
That is not what I think
you
about.
almost expected Julia Ormond to you find out it's her penis.
She's commentating, and as you stroke,
And she's staring out of a window.
As
She's in Tuscany.
I'm thinking about what I'm about to say, and as you guys are talking about that, I'm like, we should encourage more people to go to these film festivals. But it's true, the Houston Film Festival. I've been. Did they have it last year? No. But the Houston Film Festival. Was it 2 years ago?
Which one are you talking about?
I saw Black Swan there a couple years ago. I saw.
You're
Rabbit
talking
Hole.
about Cinema Arts.
Cinema Arts. I feel like if you listen to this podcast, you like movies, so you probably go to those things anyways. But we need to encourage our friends to go to those because I saw Black Swan 6 months before it came out at a film festival here in Houston, and I know when some people are like, "There's no good movies" or "There's no culture," there's ways of finding it.
And I thought it was interesting too because when we went for Interior Leather Bar. It's a movie that came out in 1980. A lot of the crowd were older gay men, and we're talking
they probably
60s,
saw it.
70s, 80s. These are people that went to Mary's back in the day when it was still kind of underground.
And it was packed. It was almost sold out.
And I felt really connected to the community in a way that I don't usually feel. And they had an archive set up, an exhibit from the Gay and Lesbian Archive.
Yeah, right outside.
With Houston gay and lesbian memorabilia. It was really cool to kind of feel part of that history
That's one of
the gay community.
Beautiful things about cinema is that it's so universal.
Yeah.
You can, and his point about film festivals, both Cinema Arts and QFest, they struggle to maintain as much under one house, so they have to be spread out. But the beauty of that is that you get to visit a venue like Rice, MFA, and you get to see these things. And
I think the venues, in turn, they kind of get more attention. So there's a lot of people that are like, I didn't even know about this place.
And if you're someone who loves gay film and you see that the MFA or Alamo Draft House, they support these places, you're like, I'm going to support you for supporting them. Does that make sense?
No, for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely going back. The MFH is doing Femme Fatales, Women of Film Noir, this month in August.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting.
MFA always does Latin Wave.
I have Cinema Arts booked for 10 days this year. So
when?
Oh, nice.
September?
No,
November.
November 7th.
You're going to get so much.
So get ready for some fun there.
Cannot wait.
Are we going to...
Okay. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt anybody.
Cut him off.
Passive aggression.
I think everybody here's cut. Now, no, like I said before, our topic for
I'm
today.
literally speechless. Literally.
Topic for today is cult
Segueing from
classics
uncut penises to
Vigorously masturbated penises.
to cult classics. I was really excited about this topic. I grew up on cult classics, and I'm sure it's the same with you guys. They're kind of like become almost like a sense of pride when I find out somebody hasn't seen like a certain cult classic. I love to promote it, and a lot of times I'll end up making a friend because I find out that it's another fan of the certain movie. And
But Brenda, what is a cult classic?
well, cult classic, really basic definition, just be a movie with a cult following, and there's different types within that, and it also covers a lot of genres. If you look at some of the lists that we looked at, like drama, comedy, horror, just something that more often than not wasn't appreciated in its time, and then ended up getting like this huge cult following, and you get to see it at midnight screenings or just different revivals and things like that, and there's a lot of usually crowd participation involved. So,
are there any cult classics about cults?
I'm sure there are. None that I've
Yes,
think
it's
of the
called
top of my
Cannibal Holocaust.
And
head. Oh yeah, but would you call that a cult?
And Helter Skelter, it's kind of a cult classic.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good.
She seems
No,
unconvinced.
I've seen
Unimpressed.
photos. I don't know if I call
Brenda says no.
I don't think it'd be at the top of my list. But
Battlefield
yeah,
Earth?
There would be cult classics about cults.
I wanted to comment on something you said that, when you were young, your introduction to cinema, I think part of the reason these films resonated with us is that often they were films that people would dismiss so easily, or they weren't so easily accessible, so you wanted to see them. You're like, well, why can't I see Reanimator or this? I want to see it. Mm-hmm. So you go out of your way to see these Rocky Horrors and stuff like that, because not to say society says you shouldn't watch them, but
But they're outside the mainstream.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be playing on TNT on a Sunday night.
Well, that's where
and for me, I have like a lot of memory attached to them too, because my mom and my stepdad, whenever we went to the video store, they'd kind of let my sister and I pick out whatever we wanted. So a lot of times I'd be watching something that I didn't even realize was at the time or was going to end up being a cult classic. So now that's also kind of like a badge of honor for me, that I saw these movies at such a young age.
Well, I think and we'll talk more about Rocky Horror later, but that's the same thing you say is when I was about to rent it, my mom's boyfriend was like, "You don't want to watch that." I was like, "Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I don't even know what it is."
like
now that you said no, then it's...
And it was in the horror movie section for some reason, I remember. And that's why I wanted to see it.
Yeah, it usually ends up in the horror section for some odd reason.
So,
Put there by people who do not.
Some new kid that doesn't know.
Appreciate
It
it.
says horror in the title.
And
Yeah, like one of the first things, one of the first ones I remember, it's actually one of my stepdad's recommendations or something he rented and just let us watch, was Faces of Death.
Oh,
I cannot watch it. I've seen pieces.
Wow. That took me back to my childhood.
yeah. This is in a time before the internet when you could find all of those things readily accessible.
Yeah,
on the
they
internet.
went up to like Faces of Death 10 or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
They had a lot of compilations.
I watched those in a dorm room at Texas
3 was
A&M.
way too preachy.
But Julia
Was that the
Ormond
Michael
was
Bay?
amazing in the fourth
Yes.
one.
Oh.
She's apparently timeless, according to you.
Julia Ormond does.
There's
everything.
like part 4 is just like this guy stroking a well-lubricated cock for like 45 minutes.
vigorously masturbating a penis.
Until the skin comes
There are
off.
children listening.
Faces of
In
Death.
Iowa.
That is such
Exactly.
an interesting.
I actually post.
You've seen Faces of Death.
Yes, it's too much. My
Yeah.
brother showed me that and showed me like bum fights around the same time.
And then you pull out, well, let's watch Rocky Horror now.
I did show it to
It
him.
seems
I'll tell you
almost
this,
tame.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, another like really strong memory I have attached to them is for the longest, it's Houston's oldest theater, but Landmark River Oaks, one of their claims to fame is showing midnight movies, and as a teenager and in my 20s, I hit it up and even for a short time worked there, and that was one of the best things that I loved and I still love about the theater is the midnight movies. that they show.
Celebrates its 75th anniversary next year.
Oh,
Wow.
That bitch is old.
The bitch needs some Botox.
She does need to be pulled together.
Yeah. Wait, are we talking about Julia Ormond?
She looks good. Have you seen her on
She
Mad
looks
Men?
amazing.
Okay.
She looks amazing.
This is not a Julie Ormond.
Fabulous.
Is this a Julia Ormond? You know, when I was looking through the list,
They're
too.
all Julia Ormond.
Thank you. When I was looking through the list of the cult classics, it was very hard for me when we talked about this topic. I was like, I can only think of really like one or two, but there were some movies on there that I didn't realize were not popular at the time. Like Bound is on a lot of cult classics, like the Jennifer Tilly, Jenna Gershon. It didn't do that well. It was critically acclaimed. But now I think once the lesbians got a hold of it, it's people like they'll play it in
One
bars.
good thing they do.
Once they suck their teeth into it.
So then, like, I have friends who still have not seen it, and they don't realize
It's
how
a good
amazing
movie.
It's the
It's a
Wachowskis'
really
first
fun
movie.
Interesting movie.
The list I think that Curtis is referring to that he sent to us is from nerve.com from I want to say like a year and a half ago or something. And I was really happy that even though I hadn't seen everything on the list, I knew every single movie. I was like,
really?
I've heard of that. Yeah.
I had at least heard of some of them, but I just, like I said, some of them I was like, that's a, like, Barbarella. Like, I understand that's kind of cult classic, but I know, I guess I always thought cult was like Repo Man or...
You know, it shocks you that Big Lebowski is considered a cult film.
Because it was such a failure when it came out.
Now
I would
there's
consider it a cult film.
festivals across
There's
the
a
country.
church.
Yeah.
There's a Big Lebowski church. You can get ordained.
Really? Interesting.
I wish Death Becomes Her would become a cult classic.
I think it is a cult classic.
A
It's
gay
a gay
cult
cult
classic.
classic.
But it's a there's sub
So genres. in
genres within cult classics.
We can't even be a first-class citizen in cult films.
there. Yes. Some of them I saw were like, campy, guilty pleasures,
She's
midnight movies.
right over your rights there.
Oh,
I
sorry.
know. No,
I know what it feels like. No.
Stand with Texas women.
Exploitation, B films, and then one I saw was So Bad It's Good.
There
I
are some-
definitely, yeah.
There's some amazing... Speaking of River Oaks,
Basic Instincts 2.
Why would you say that to me?
I'm with you, Curtis.
It's terrible. It's good.
It's so bad that it's
Yeah,
good.
Rob
It
can't
is-
travel down a dark alley now with Curtis because he's gonna get cut.
No, here. Let me talk about Basic Instinct. Okay, it's weird. It's like it's not bad. It's like
I said Basic Instinct 2.
no, I know. It's like they chose the wrong dialogue to cut, and then they could have like she has a line where she goes, "Maybe you want me to be the killer," and that would have been a great line. Like, maybe you want me. Like, that's kind of like invitational. No, she goes, "Maybe you want me to be the killer." Like, some guys are into blondes and some guys are into killers. So if you see the difference,
You should have quit while you were ahead.
that's what I mean. It's like a lot of the like seduction scenes are like she throws a belt around his neck while they're having sex. That's freaky enough. No, let's make it freakier. She's like, "I trust you. Do you trust me?" No.
Gross.
So that.
I like how he knows that movie for word
He
for
watches
word.
it a lot.
Oh, I can quote it. Yeah, I can walk you through it literally.
Speaking of movies that are so bad they're good, and River Oaks, they show The Room there once a month.
that's like a new kind of part.
It's
like the new Rocky Horror. I would
it's
think.
amazing to experience. The movie is horrifically bad, and we're not even talking just there's no plot. The acting is horrific. The sets are terrible. The
And
nudity
he
is
spent $6 million on that.
of his own money,
Yeah.
and he. If you don't know about the movie, you
I
can,
was a little jaw drop, so there was
yeah,
no
you can Google about The Room because is this filmmaker in San Francisco, and he put $6 million of his own money into making his amazing movie project, and hired these people and bought all this equipment and sunk all this in, and it is horrific. And he directs himself in it, and it has become. It's considered the worst movie ever made, but it has become a midnight movie phenomenon because, like Rocky Horror, they have the audience participation and people dress up and they throw.
He shows up at the screening.
Yeah,
He
he's
loves
actually come
it.
to Houston a couple times.
But does he know it's bad?
It's like one of those things that like I think because it's now popular, but in that ironic way, I guess he's kind of embraced it because he kind of, in some interviews he said that, that was his point, but then they've interviewed actors and they're like, he's a nice
No.
guy, but he's totally BSing. That he was
really
intending to make
into
a
it.
serious film, and that's not what he ended up making.
It's horrible. I mean, if you ever watch like one of those Skinamax movies that's on at like 2 a.m, that's like dildo Saggins and the
Shire.
the Lord of the Cock Rings, like that's an actual, or The Devil Wears Nada. There's
Oh, that's good.
those have better production value than this
that.
For
movie.
$6 million?
It was well, and I read in an article about him. You know, he did because he had never made a movie before. He bought cameras when other people rent them.
Yeah.
Like if you're making a movie,
he
you
bought-
rent equipment, but he bought all of this equipment.
He bought a huge billboard, I think, in Los Angeles or San Francisco that was up for the longest promoting the film.
Yeah. And it's
Why?
It's pretty. And I've read interviews with some of the people involved, and there's in the movie at one point one of the characters changes actors because the actor quit. So they just changed the actor halfway through the movie.
How do they explain that? They
They
need
don't.
to.
On Wikipedia, it's budget $6 million. Opening weekend gross for this film was $1,800.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But I wonder how much it's made now, not $6 million.
I'm sure it's made quite a bit now, and it's made him kind of a celebrity
Yeah.
in a way, and it's just it's good fun. And if you ever go, it's so much fun. And I like to go. What I was really impressed at the Room is that there are a lot of young people there.
Yeah.
It's a lot of 18 to 23-year-old, and like so a lot of young college students are kind of getting into this movie. And it's just it's a blast.
I need to rewatch it only for the fact that I saw it without the crowd participation, so I died.
I
a
can't
little
imagine.
inside.
I cannot imagine
would-
watching it without
I'll have to go.
the crowd. Like
I've
Rocky
never-
Horror, you can watch without the audience participation.
I might have to argue with you there.
But the Room without, there's just no. It's just pure joy to be in a room with 100 other people screaming. They throw plastic spoons in the air. Which, if you see the movie, doesn't make much more sense, but it does make a little bit of sense.
Well, actually, I read it's because, and I didn't realize this, but all the picture frames that are in the film, they have
spoons.
pictures of spoons. Like I didn't notice that.
Is that symbolic? Or
No,
it's just I don't know.
It's
if
just
he
spoons.
It's just spoons.
That was what was in the frame
See,
when he
this
bought
is
them.
this is Curtis is trying to find meaning.
Yeah.
in all of
don't
this.
do that. Your head will hurt.
So yeah, he apparently went to and bought a complete beginner's director's package, which includes purchasing a brand new film camera. The director was confused about the difference between a 35 millimeter and high definition, so he decided to shoot the film on both using two different cameras.
And Brenda spits her water out.
Oh, this is a fun fact for me and Rob because we're both fans of Veronica Mars, but they even referenced it in Veronica Mars.
Really?
Yeah, there's like a scene where I think these secondary characters are throwing a football back and forth, and they're talking about how they just went to go see The Room and how there's crowd participation.
You know
There's
what?
there's
You
a
sold
football
me. I will go
catching
see
scene.
this movie now.
Yeah.
I want to see
I'll
what
go
kind
with
of
you
train
because
wrecks.
I haven't. Yeah, exactly.
You've
It's
got
a
to
train
see
wreck.
it, and the audience. Because I went to it when the first time I went with someone who had seen it before, and they were like, "Go, it's gonna be cool." And I was like, I looked on YouTube and I watched 2 clips. I was like, "What the fuck is this?" So I went. It was amazing.
Oh,
I was
just to
so
stay-
happy.
Move off away from that topic, but I will. Yes.
I'm
We
down.
need to make. Well, you know what we should do? We'll have a movies the podcast outing.
It's always the second Friday of every month.
yeah
that they
At
play.
midnight.
Yeah.
at midnight.
Because the second Saturday of every month is Rocky Horror. They always do it the Friday before.
Okay.
Speaking of Rocky Horror, now what I was saying, like,
Ooh,
I'm not sure about.
Perfect segue. What?
It's not a segue if you call it a segue.
segue.
Transition.
You were saying that what's it called, Rocky Horror to Use, is something that can be watched without it, and I'm not sure because my first experience was
I adore watching that film with by
I saw
myself.
it on. It was on.
Yeah.
It was on VH1. It was out without crowd participation, so of course it was edited for time and content. But I was just like, I think it was in my early teens, and I was like, what the hell is this? And so I think the first time I actually saw it with an audience is when I started working at River Oaks. And it is a lot of fun, but it's one of the things is it kind of distracts you from actually watching the film and seeing how kind of silly and bad it is.
I don't think it's bad
I
at
don't
all.
think it is
I'll say
either.
this: it took me until just a couple years ago. I thought it was kind of silly and the musical and fun and everything. It took me a couple years until a couple years ago when I watched it again. I thought this is a well-made. It's kind of a
entertaining.
No,
I'll
I
give it
think
that.
it's well-made. Like
I do
you're
too.
wrong. No, I think it's the character of Frankenfurter when he gets to the end and he sings that "I'm Coming Home"
Yeah.
song, and you realize, oh, there's a sadness to this movie and something, and there's more. You can read about the storyline that they had to cut that makes it a little deeper, but I think it's a fantastically well-made movie.
I
And maybe
agree.
it's something that merits, rewatching without the audience. Just me.
But with
What
the
the DVD?
audience, though.
I've never seen it with an audience.
Really?
Oh,
Then,
you
we'll,
need to.
then we're gonna take Friday and Saturday night off, and we're gonna go watch these 2 movies back to back.
Back
at
to
the
back
River
with
Oaks.
the crowd
Can I dress up
participation.
as Magenta?
I'll bring
It's
the cocaine.
encouraged.
I mean Colombia.
Which is in some places code for cocaine.
Or my date?
I just call it breakfast.
Okay.
Moving on.
Moving on. So what are So what are some of your guys' favorite cult films or cult classics?
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about experiences with Rocky Horror.
Oh, I'm sorry. I totally skipped over you guys. That was my experience, but go ahead.
Brenda.
I thought that was your segue into.
Segue.
You can't
See?
point out the segue.
All about
See,
Brenda.
you didn't point out the segue, so I didn't know that was a segue. But you go ahead.
Tell us, Boo Boo.
Oh, my butt hurts now.
Shouldn't it?
No.
Shouldn't it?
My biggest experience is that whenever I was promoted at the River Oaks to manager, one of the shit jobs positions that they will give you is, well, you get to work with Rocky Horror. You get to deal with that. All the other managers leave. You get to be the one to deal with the craziness of that. And I never really watched the show. I've seen it once on TV, and I was like, I don't understand this. But and this is back when they did it every Saturday night. Saturday after Saturday, I would sit there counting down in the count room, and you can hear right through the wall all the screaming and the yelling. And so I learned the songs before I even seen the movie with an audience, because I'm in there counting down tails, listening to them through that wall. So when I finally saw it, all in context, it made a lot of sense to me.
But I was only there 6 months, and you were there obviously a lot longer. But I noticed for the midnights, some did okay and some did even a little better. But like Rocky Horror always did great.
It was like at least $2,000 a show. It's like, and the cast never gets paid.
Oh, hey. I was...
They do it for the love.
11.
Yeah, that's what we count on.
Exactly.
And then they make them. We used to make them clean. Or they still do. You get to do this for free, and then you still have to clean up after it because it's your mess.
Oh, I'm sure people love it. I was 11. My mom was on a date. No, it wasn't a date. Well, I don't know, whatever. Anyways, she was bringing her 11-year-old on a date. And so they were going to go back to the house and hang out. And they said I could rent a movie, so I wanted to rent Rocky Horror. And my mom's boyfriend at the time said, you won't like it. I said, I'm going to watch it. Well, they went to bed.
And left you up watching Rocky Horror.
And left me up watching Rocky Horror. And I thought, this is insane.
Is this why you're gay?
Probably.
Like, did you have a moment
I was still
glitter light
This
came
and
from
Sleeping
above?
Beauty turned you gay.
I wanted to be Janet. Well, I saw
That's how
Rocky.
you
I saw
know.
Rocky Horror and Basic Instinct pretty close by each other. So, and The Witches of Eastwick. So, anyways, that's probably why
You
I'm gay.
didn't stand a chance.
So I know
You weren't going to come out of there
So
heterosexual.
I watched the movie and then go to bed. My brother comes back from staying at his one of his friends' houses of a slumber party, and I'm like, "You've got to watch this movie." So then my brother and I watched the movie, and we were singing those songs. We got in so much trouble because we would sing "Touch It, Touch Me,"
I will post that video of him doing it at karaoke.
which I did do it as spoken word karaoke recently. I didn't want to sing it, so I just said
I was feeling on in.
Feeling very William Shatner.
couldn't win. Like,
Yes.
It's a pretty song. I like it.
but I do. Yeah. So that's how I saw it the first time, and the second time.
You watched it twice, like
I watched it that.
When he made his brother watch
I watched it that
Oh,
night,
yeah,
and then I
you
made my
watched
brother. I watched it with my brother because I had no clue what we were watching. No clue. I thought it was scary, and it was kind of had some scary, tense moments when you're 11.
when you're 11. Yeah.
When
like,
Riff Raff is torturing Rocky. No, don't do it.
no, when he's like they're eating the Meatloaf character. What's the Meatloaf character? Eddie.
Eddie.
They're
Yeah.
eating him, so that's like terrifying. And then it was sexual, but it was fun, but it was. So it
I'm
was
ashamed that
scary
it
to
took me 4 viewings to figure out the joke.
What
That
show?
what they're eating for dinner.
No.
When Frankenfurter says, "That's a rather tender subject," and then everyone's like looking at their plate, and I was like, "Oh no!"
What's the call line? Well, that's a rather tasteless joke.
I watched it
better
for the
watch
first
out.
time when I was 14, and I had finally found my niche group in high school. I was a freshman, and I started hanging out with these seniors who did Rocky Horror. And they smoked pot, and they smoked cigarettes, and they listened to the Smiths.
They sound cool.
They were so cool, and some of them are Facebook friends with me, so they're probably listening. I know one of them listens, but we kind of that was kind of my first like taste of like bigger world outside my little town, and these cooler older kids were showing me this like, and it felt like this like secret initiation into something outside of our town, and so I've loved Rocky Horror. I've seen it 1,000 times, and I watch it all the time on its own. I do my own audience participation. I don't dress up like Janet in my living room anymore.
You've gone past that.
You scared the neighbors.
Well, my neighbors were complaining.
touch me. I'm just still surprised, Brenda, that you didn't get the I really do have like a weird. Maybe it's a gay thing. I know you're straight and everything, but maybe it's a gay thing. Like that Frankenfurter's different, and so when he's
not
tragic.
proud of it. He's just like, whatever. I'm gonna be.
You know,
He is
like
proud of
I
it,
said,
but he's not
The first time I
proud.
did see it, it was edited and whatnot, and I was pretty young. I was 13, so maybe now, like I said, the only other times I've seen it afterwards are with the crowd participation, so it's kind of hard to pay attention.
Oh yeah.
But so maybe it does merit another watch kind of on its own, and then I'll give you my real evaluation. That was
Tell
my
me
experience with
soon.
it.
I did want to mention one that was a cult classic, and I think we'll agree the film might not be good, but the performance is amazing, and that's Mommy Dearest. And I know people like joke about it.
It is considered a cult classic.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
but her performance is fantastic.
It's amazing.
Like, she is Joan Crawford, and she does not talk about that movie. But I might have been up late one night and found her inside the actor's studio, and she talks about it for the first time.
Yeah.
And she's a little embarrassed, and she's really proud of the movie, but she just talked about how she is proud of that performance, and it was a hard
Well, it
performance to
harpooned
do.
her career.
Oh, she said that. She said,
She
"I
was so
defined."
blackballed because of that movie, because of friends in the Hollywood establishment, friends of Joan Crawford. Really, because if you Faye Dunaway in the 70s had kind of an amazing career. She's doing Bonnie and Clyde.
I've read
She
her
did
biography.
Chinatown, and she's an amazing actress. She's gorgeous. She was making hit after hit, and then after Mommy Dearest, she kind of disappears for a little bit. Supergirl is out there somewhere, but
I've seen it.
Supergirl.
Yeah, it killed her career.
it killed her career, and she really suffered a lot because of that.
And not
movie.
many people, I know she blames that. Not many actresses from the 70s are still around. Sally Field, Jane
Right.
Fonda. I mean,
But
that's
it
really
killed her
good.
career pretty immediately.
Oh,
after
yeah.
the movie came out in 83, I think. 83, 84.
I can't remember. I think 84.
Joan Crawford died in 77. So
Then it was like 81 or 82, something. It was
early 80s. And so her career in the 80s really, really suffered because of it.
Fizzled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because she's a great actress.
Yeah.
And
She pops up every once in a while, but I love Faye Dunaway. I've seen a ton of her movies. I have her biography.
I just wanted to, with this episode going live so quickly, I just did want to give a date for Rocky Horror at the River Oaks. Saturday, August 10th, but if you want to watch The Room in Rocky Horror, 2 nights back to back, is Friday, August 23rd is The Room, and then Saturday, August 24th is Rocky Horror. I was trying to squeeze that in, but you
Bitch, don't interrupt me.
Also, we didn't get to hear Stan's, experience in Rocky Horror.
Oh, I was terrified, but I love Tim Curry, so yeah.
You were watching it, that's why.
Or
Oh no, it was Labyrinth. That was sort of. Oh, I meant to say Legend.
Legend.
I was like, we do not insult David Bowie on this podcast, or I'm walking out.
She has a line.
there's the line. There's the line. I saw the line, but I snorted it.
Oh, continue, Curtis.
You remind me of the Babe.
Are we ready for another segue, Rob?
Sorry, segue, Rob.
Is it time for a segue?
So are you segueing?
No.
Our next segue is
Well,
brought to us.
that was. I mean, we didn't need the segue. You were already into, kind of our favorite cult film.
I know, he kind of avoided that, whatever.
I have to say my favorite film, I think my favorite film of all time, and it's definitely a cult classic, is Clue. And very apropos because we found out today, the day that we're recording this, that Eileen Brennan, who played Mrs. Peacock, has died at the age of 80, and an amazing actress in a lot of different films. Clue is one of those movies, if you don't think that it's a cult classic, quote it on your Facebook page and see what happens.
Yes.
10 or 11 people will immediately start quoting, like quote off. It's eminently quotable. Madeline Kahn, amazing. Eileen Brennan,
Everybody
Tim
in that
Curry,
cast is
Leslie
amazing.
Ann Warren, Martin Mull,
Michael McKean.
and Tim Curry and
Was it Christopher Lloyd?
Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah.
And
there's
it's
there's
just-
some Oscar nominations in
Singing
that
Telegram.
who was Susanna Hoffs from the Bengals.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yes, it's Susanna Hoffs playing the telegram girl.
Yeah, I knew that.
And but it's an amazing movie. It bombed at the box office when it came out, but it became a huge VHS rental. And I am constantly amazed when I come across people that if you just quote it in a bar, someone standing next to you will quote the next line. And the other night when we were at First Period, Charlie Vaughn, who's the director of First Period, said that was his favorite movie, was Clue. And you find it, straight people, gay people love that movie so much. I own it on DVD. I've seen
have
it
it on
maybe
Blu-ray.
1,200 times.
Back when we used to run 35 millimeter at the River Oaks, whenever we booked that one, the studio would send you a mysterious ending. You didn't know which ending you would get.
Yeah,
I
so-
loved it when they showed it on TV because you would watch you would get to see all three endings.
all three endings. Yeah,
But
which
in
I
theaters,
was.
they just send you with whatever ending you get. And that was always fun to guess which one you would have.
I've
Yeah.
never seen it with just the one ending, but
Well,
you
on
can
the
do that on the Blu-ray.
On the DVD or the Blu-ray, you can choose to do it with a random ending or all three. I've always watched it with all three because I just like it.
I
with
like
all three.
Yeah, I like the I don't like the sad ending. I'm a fan of the happy ending.
Which one was happy?
Are you thinking of Wayne's World?
No, I just want to work happy ending in. Thanks.
Oh, okay.
I'll crawl back into my corner now.
Oh, I got it now.
Dan.
Well, I was a fan. A fan of the board game, and so I think that's why I ended up watching the movie as a kid. But I loved it, and then in subsequent viewings, I love it even more.
And
I
it's-
even want to try the mystery murder theory dinner that's going around just because of that.
And it's got it's some
I think we
great
have an antibiotic
actors
for that.
having
Yeah.
a lot of fun doing.
It's just such a sharp comedy. The humor in that. If you haven't seen this movie, you're a fan of just the timing and it's just the whole movie is a great package of a movie.
And some of it is ad lib too. A lot of Madeline Kahn's lines are ad libbed. Like her
Oh, my
famous
God.
flames on the side of my face
Yeah.
was ad libbed. You forget what an amazing comic actress she was. Leslie Ann Warren does not do a lot of comedy, but she was really hilarious. Eileen Brennan is amazing. So it's everyone in that movie is so good and so perfect.
It's
And
funny you say that because those three women all have Oscar nominations for comedies. Eileen Brennan was nominated for Private Benjamin, Leslie Ann Warren for Victor Victoria,
That's
Madeline Kahn
right.
for Blazing Saddles.
That's right.
So they really were it was like putting Maya Rudolph and Tina Fey in.
Of 1985.
Yes,
like
and
the
I'm
Grand
surprised
James
Terry
of
Garr
comedy.
wasn't in it.
Wow.
What's your favorite?
Well, before anything, I was gonna say, in the research, and now that we're talking about it, I think anybody who hasn't, just do yourself a favor and kind of go through Tim Curry's filmography. 'Cause
Yes.
he's coming up a lot. He's an awesome actor.
And he's unfortunately dealing with some health issues too. So he had a
You should skip Scary Movie 2. You don't want to see that.
or Home Alone
I
too.
love that though. that-
Home Alone 2. Him as a butler in that.
He's trying to make up some money.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. This is actually a one that's a little bit, even though it's still a cult classic. It's not as popular as other cult classics.
Is it the
if you will.
Sapphires?
No, it's it's one of my favorites. Also, of course, it's in the horror genre, but it's actually also one of my favorites because of a personal memory. My sister and I actually watched it on VHS for the first time the night before our little brother was born, and it's Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
I love that movie. It's scary.
That movie scared the shit.
Is it still
out of
scary?
me.
It's still
It
kind of
scared
scary,
the
but
popcorn out of you.
it's so much fun. It's so campy.
Okay.
It's if anybody doesn't know anything about it.
scared the crap out of me. I am afraid of clowns. First of all,
Oh yeah.
Everybody is.
I'm afraid of clowns. I have nightmares about clowns. I hate clowns. I still shiver.
What if you met someone with
But-
a clown fetish?
I would. Well,
Run.
I'd fuck them and then I'd leave almost immediately. But what were you talking about? Oh no, that movie.
Clue.
I watched it as a kid. I literally scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah, that's a good one, Brenda. I remember
Wait,
seeing it on TBS.
That and Troll. Those were the two movies as a child that really scarred
I need
me.
to see Troll again.
Oh, Troll
you don't.
scared the shit out of me.
But no, I love that movie. It did scare the crap out of us, but it was also kind of fun just because of the little. For anybody who hasn't watched it, it's literally Killer Clowns from Outer Space. But they really incorporate the whole clown and circus theme.
Cotton candy.
Anybody who gets killed gets wrapped up in a cotton candy kind of cocoon. There's a scene where
And their spaceship is shaped like a big
circus
tent,
tent,
like a
yeah,
circus tent.
which is
yeah.
awesome. There's a scene where one of the clowns is doing kind of shadow puppets of a dinosaur or something, and the crowd that's watching it actually ends up getting eaten by the shadow puppet, the actual shadow.
That's so
I'm
genius.
literally getting chills. I'm getting
Worked
I'm
up.
getting hives right now.
I don't
talking
know
about this movie.
what acid trip the filmmakers were
I need
on.
easy cheese and Triscuits.
But yeah, I totally recommend it. Unironically, I love that movie.
It holds up well for both a campy and a horror.
Exactly.
Honestly, there's a lot of good films that we went through this list talking about, and I was gonna pick Hedwig, but then I said no, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. But I know this is cheesy to pick Fight Club as one of your favorites, but when you look at Fight Club on its own, you see what it did and what no film has been able to match that movie. And it's such an exciting film. First time I watched it, I was floored. I was like, what the fuck is this?
And it was a bomb, too.
Yeah, it didn't do very well. And it was just, it didn't necessarily put David Fincher and anybody involved on the map as far as bankability. But, I mean, Brad Pitt was already pretty much bankable at that time. But the film did show there's so much quality behind this. And they've never adapted another one of his books except for Choke, but I'm not a big fan of Choke. But to me, Fight Club is just a phenomenal film. It not only holds the test of time, but try to think of another movie that from beginning to end just worked, just had so many different cinematic elements, and it was just such a game changer as a film.
Right.
That's why, and we've talked about this too, but I really think there's no director right now who's had such a fantastic run as David Fincher. I mean, that man has not made a misstep.
I watched Zodiac again the other night. It's one of my favorite movies. And
I bought it not too long ago, and I've been meaning to rewatch it.
It's one of those movies that it's like one of my 5 movies that I'll pop in when I'm like cleaning house or just like cleaning out a closet or something just to have on. Just an amazingly beautiful movie.
Yeah. No. I love Fight Club.
And Helena Bonham Carter is amazing in it. And
the whole cast is really good.
They auditioned Courtney Love for that part, which actually kind of would have been brilliant.
That would have been amazing.
Helena
That's
Bonham
inspired.
Carter's been playing that part for everything.
I don't think so. No, I think she was so like in her corsets before that movie, and I love that they put her into that.
Since then,
that was kind of her first like
I don't
foray
think so,
out of
though.
the Merchant Ivory.
Yeah, she did a Woody
drama.
Allen movie and then Fight Club. But I don't. Well, no, I mean, really, Mommy Dearest is one that I really did love. I also thought of the John Waters movie Female Troubles, which I was forced to watch and I love now.
It's crazy. Everything John Waters does. Donnie Darko's one, like Fight Club, I think that it didn't really have a lot of resonance with mainstream theater goers, but people who love that movie just love it. I mean, and I saw Mary McDonnell give a speech recently at Galacticon, and she talked about Donnie Darko. She got the part in Battlestar Galactica based on Donnie Darko, her performance as Mrs. Darko. And if you ever see the sequel on run far, run fast.
If you ever see anything
is horrible.
Anything done by the guy who did Donnie Darko is terrible, and that's what's so disappointing. Is I love Donnie Darko, and then I was like, oh my god, he did The Box, and I was like, it's gonna be so good.
I liked The Box.
It has wonderful. It has
First time we hear you say that.
It has fantastic elements, but it's completely miscast. It's shot poorly.
You think so?
They
I
cut out
love
all
it.
the best stuff that made the plot like realistic.
I really enjoyed The Box.
We'll talk about that later.
Cameron Diaz's
no, but
Box.
For real.
Yeah.
No, really, Mommy Dearest was one when I looked through the list. Sisters, I'm a big Brian De Palma fan.
Yeah, I've heard of that one, and then it was actually on this list, so it caught my attention. So
You really should watch it. What I love about it is you can see 20 imitators of that movie. So when you watch that movie, you're going to go, okay, I've seen that.
It's like American Beauty. American Beauty has been that well has been dried up by so many films trying to make.
Yeah, and Sisters was really the beginning of it did the 2-shot and the people watching each other, and it's such an amped up rear view or rear window. But every time I get a chance to watch that, I watch it. It's on Hulu right now. I watched it. I mean, but not a lot of people have seen it.
If you mind, just one more, Brenda.
Not like Curtis was talking or anything.
Oh, you know what? We might say this one for horror, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That I think it.
That's a major cult classic.
Classic, exactly.
It scares me so much. It's the movie that, for such a low budget, it's effective. It's one of the movies that I just can't. I get so anxious watching that movie. It scares me so much, but it still does it. It's not one that it doesn't hold the test of time.
It
still holds the test of time.
It holds up.
I think when I first watched it, I was a teenager, and I think like it takes a while to actually get to the action, and for the first 30, 40 minutes, I will admit I kind of felt a little bored, but then when it gets to it, and then you kind of see where they were going, they're just building up this mood where these kids just feel.
And the more you know that, the more you've seen that movie, the more you know that built up. You're like, it's like,
yeah, you get
anxious.
anxious.
Happen.
And they didn't capture it in the remakes.
No.
I liked the first one with Jessica Biel. It's
the remake is
intense.
good. It's not like the original. It doesn't
No.
capture the same kind of
No,
intensity.
everyone thinks the grittiness is MTV grittiness now. Like they're like it's pretty gritty. I wanted to say that it's funny how we talk about cult classics and I'm like I don't like any, and then now I think of 20. Have you ever seen Carnival of Souls?
No.
Oh,
You keep telling me about that.
it's too slow for you, but I know Brenda might like it. Well, no, it's just
I love that he knows.
He's saying that you're.
I know him. It's Hulu. It's Criterion, and it is fantastic. A lot of people have taken from that too. A lot of people have taken from that, and that's super low budget. It only started making money in like the 80s or 90s.
I'm gonna have to check that out. I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
If
so
it's on, I'll send you guys a link if you can watch it online. Don't watch the colorized version. Obviously, it's terrible, but
Racist.
black and white.
We were doing so well for about 2 minutes there. We were professional. We were on point. No one was talking.
For real. But no. So, anyways, that's just one I thought of just now.
All right, guys. I think we're gonna wrap it up, but we would definitely, if you're not into cult classics, I would definitely recommend it. A lot of people probably seen a lot of cult classics and don't even realize that, they weren't appreciated in their time.
If someone wants to tell us about their cult classic favorites, where should they go?
They should go to social media.
They should go fuck themselves.
On social media.
We'll
Facebook, watch it.
We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram at Movies the Podcast. This is Brenda.
This is Rob.
This is Jordan.
And this is Dan.
And this is Curtis.
You dumb bitches.
I am not Mr. Lebowski. You're Mr. Lebowski. I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, that or his dudeness or duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Did a really good job of making it sound like popular songs, but they weren't.
Because you don't have to pay for the rights.
Yeah.
But it had a very and the lead character had a very Molly Ringwald. For those of us who grew up watching Molly Ringwald and that earnest, pretty girl that isn't popular, but she kind of puts together her own fashion. Mm-hmm. That was really a throwback to
kind of like conventionally beautiful.
Yeah, definitely, and a lot less annoying than Molly Ringwald, I will say.
The only film I saw at QFest this year was I saw a short called PDA, and then Rob and I saw and Brenda saw a documentary about Divine. Excuse me.
I was really sad that I had class and I didn't get to see it.
It was a fantastic
documentary.
documentary.
I've heard so many good things.
It was pretty packed.
And Rob had made a really good point when we saw it too, or I don't know if this was your point or I'm stealing it, but there was such... it felt like audience participation. It felt like everybody was watching it together and everybody was in it. We all were interested.
It was a community experience watching that movie. And it's just, you forget that sometimes going to watch a movie should be like... You're there to get a shared experience. It is, and it was fantastic. Everybody laughed and clapped, and there was just, the reaction to the film was fantastic. Actually, we had that again. I wish there were more during first period, but there was a lot of, you had those same reactions with other people.
It was cool, and I like that about the film festival, which was these people who go to these things are people who love movies and people that are interested in the community. And
out of them, and oh my god, and the supporting cast was good too, but those two were.
Cassandra Peterson.
I say there's a couple of famous people.
Plays Elvira. Judy Tenuta, who I've always loved, had a great cameo as a psychic, and I would put it up there with like Bridesmaids or Bachelorette or some of these movies that have been coming out recently with the funny. I laughed more in this movie than I did during
Bridesmaids for me.
Bridesmaids, and This Is 40, which I watched the other day, which I loved, and I laughed through the whole thing. But I think I laughed more during first period.
I'm sad I missed it. Well, I'm not sad I missed it. It's a good date, but...
Well, the director was there, and he said that they are shopping for a distributor.
Yeah.
And it's kind of making the festival circuit. So hopefully it'll be available for more people to see.
The biggest shocking thing about the news with that, when he came up and he says, we shot this in 10 days.
Oh, yeah, that
Good
one.
Lord, yeah.
I was like...
I think everybody's jaw dropped like, what?
I mean, you can tell that it's cheaply made. It had a low budget. It had a low budget, but it was still... There was a lot of coverage and the way it was shot.
There's a lot of costume changes, scene changes. It's a lot of locations.
There are only 10 students at the high school, though.
Yeah.
If you notice, it's the same 10 people walking on all the hallways. And at the high school party, it's the same 10 people that you just saw walking in the hallway. But the production value is actually really good.
Yeah.
I thought the music, there were some original songs by some of the cast.
And whoever did the music He was on a date.
saw First Period, which is
was
a
on a
comedy, which we all really enjoyed.
I loved that movie.
It was pretty amazing.
Tell me what it's about.
It is if you've seen Girls Will Be Girls, it's kind of Girls Will Be Girls meets Mean Girls meets, it's like John Hughes meets John Waters.
Yeah.
And so it's very campy, but it's a throwback to those high school drama comedy, romantic 80s movies.
And for such a broad comedy of a movie, I found it pretty relatable. I really liked.
I totally related to it.
I like the main girl. She's kind of off a little bit. Like she has so much pride in herself that she doesn't care what people think about her. And I loved her. And I love that the one girl had no friend, the coat rack.
Oh my gosh, she was hilarious. Well, the twist is that the two main characters, the two girls, are played by men. So, but it's not drag. It's more, it exists in a much more mainstream place. I would kind of compare it to Divine's character in Hairspray, where it's kind of a.
I don't want to make.
It's
eye
kind of
Not-
just
not drag.
It's accepted that
You
that's
know what
a
I'm
woman.
talking about?
Yeah.
It's not drag. It's a man playing a woman.
Yeah.
And it's believable in a way.
And both the lead wrote the movie, and her co-star, they both just sold it. Like the movie asked a lot of physical comedy.
So there's a level of engagement that you don't find in mainstream movie theaters.
Well, I
with
think
people.
my sister and I made it to I Am Divine, like by the skin of our teeth. We actually got there early, but being naive, didn't think it was going to be sold out. But we happened to make it, and we probably could have caught it at another time. But with this audience, it kind of like it made it such an experience.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there was one guy though. If we ever find out who he was, sitting behind us, he commented on everything. Anytime something funny would happen, it'd be like, haha, and he'd be like, that was funny!
Oh, that sounds awesome.
No, Jordan was there.
I wanted to watch the erotic shorts with him. That would have been. That's a penis.
An ejaculate.
Yeah. No, that's how he
There
was.
she
Oh,
blows.
no, not for nothing, but didn't I say a lot of those shorts would have been awesome in 3D?
Oh my God, they were
Brenda.
before Interior Leather Bar. There were some erotic shorts, which were it was very beautifully done
They
and
were
very
actually
tasteful
nicely done.
for a giant, like close up, not even a medium shot, but like close up of a lubed penis being vigorously masturbated.
Mother.
It was the most beautiful thing. I don't know. It was.
It was like intercut with scenes of the ocean and
Yeah.
this guy
That is
just,
not
like,
what I think
You
about.
almost expected like Julia Ormond to like. You find out it's her.
Jump to the left. With your hands on your hip.
And that was a clip of Rocky Horror Picture Show. This is Movies the Podcast, and this is Brenda.
This is Rob.
This is Curtis.
And this is Jordan.
Today we're going to be talking about cult films, but what's everybody been up to first?
Well, I think one thing we all did recently was attend Q-Fest, the annual Gay and Lesbian Film Festival in Houston. Brenda and I went and saw 2 movies together.
Porn.
One was Porn. I always wanted to watch gay porn with James Franco, and I feel I have.
And Brenda.
And Brenda. And her sister.
So from the moment you met her, you're like, you know what? You and I should watch porn together.
She said that,
we
actually.
bonded.
Yeah, it was...
And then we had kebab afterwards. So.
And she gave me a pedo bear tie. It was a good time. But we saw Interior Leather Bar, which is James Franco's project envisioning the lost footage from 1980s cruising. And then we all saw, except for Curtis was not available that night.